Hey, welcome to Keep On Pushing TV. I am your host, Devon Harris. And yeah, you know what we do here, right? We share ideas and insights that are going to challenge you, ideas that are going to inspire you to keep on pushing and live your absolute best life. So if that's something you're interested in, then welcome again. You're in the right space. This is Keep On Pushing TV. Our guest today is a native of Australia. He migrated to the UK in 1998 to take up a professional cricket career or contract playing club cricket in Hertfordshire before starting in what is known as channel management back in 2002. Since then, he's had senior roles in both the UK and Australia, building out regional and global sales channels in the IT and telecommunication space for companies such as Spectralink, Advertel, and Mail Protector. He was head of global sales at InBay, again in that space, where he drove significant company growth in the EMA, North America, Australia, and New Zealand, and founded the company's first international office. Today, he is in the EMEA again, managing director for Allvic Networks. I am pleased, I am excited to welcome to the show my friend, Scott Tyson. Scott, welcome to Keep On Pushing, bro.
Thanks, Dev. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And yeah, it's always good to catch up with you, mate.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So let's go back a little bit, though, Scott. Well, for you, it's more than a little bit because you've been around for a while. Let's go back to your childhood, though, in Australia, where you grew up. What was your childhood like?
Oh, look, I actually just done a talk at my daughter's school about Australia about 2 days ago. And you know what? It always gets you in a reflective mood. I mean, you and I talk about Kingston all the time. We talk about Melbourne and so forth. But it was a wonderful life. You know, I was very fortunate enough to grow up in a place where you could ride your bike for miles, and you'd be at a cricket ground or a footy ground, an Aussie rules footy ground. You know, school was 500 yards up the road. The only thing you had to watch out for was a couple of tiger snakes and an errant kangaroo running around, you know, here and there. But, you know, I had a fantastic childhood that was filled with, you know, discipline, you know, and that's, again, something you and I have spoken about, very much discipline, but also lots of love and a lot of outdoors. You know, Australia is seen as the great outdoors country, and it really was that, Deb. You know, you know, you went out in the morning and you went to school, and you didn't come back until the lights went out or the lights came on in the street, and you were playing football or cricket or whatever. So, you know, if I can't think of a better childhood than what I had growing up in Melbourne, in Australia.
How many siblings did you have?
Yeah, got two. One sister, one brother. I'm the neglected middle one. You know,
so that's the problem, huh?
that's the problem. That's what you've been trying to work out all
Yes,
these years,
exactly.
mate. Yeah, I've got wonderful siblings. Sadly, I don't see them enough now. Living in the UK, I get to see them once or twice when I go back home to Australia. I have a brother, Paul, who's 4 years older than me, who is probably one of the most naturally gifted sportsmen I think I've ever met. I guess we'll get to him at some point, but you know, a guy that had so much natural talent and could have done anything from a sports point of view. And then I had my sister, Fiona, who she's 4 years younger than me, who has got the most unbelievable drive and tenacity to get out there and earn a buck. And they're, you know, and I'm very lucky to have gained, you know, a lot of good things and probably some bad things from both of them.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, you know, about their influence on you and some of the decisions you have made in life.
Yeah, look, Paul predominantly, because we, you know, up until I think we were about 13 or 14, we actually shared a bedroom. So, you know, there's only so much beatings you can get, playful, of course, but, you know, it taught me a lot of diplomacy at times. It taught me how to defend myself at times as well. Paul, without probably telling him or without, you know, sitting down and speaking about a lot of things, Paul had a massive influence in my life, and for the good. You know, so much so that when we were kids, we were probably the biggest frenemies, I guess. But when I moved over to the UK in 1998, I don't think we could have become more close.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where we don't speak to each other for a few weeks, but when we're over there, we won't leave each other's side for 2 days, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, got a really good relationship. Fiona, on the other hand, is more that nurturing type where she will do anything for anyone. There are things, her ability to push herself and to be successful is also inspiring. So they've both had influences, both probably good and bad, as I said, but yeah, really positive influences in my life for sure, and
So
remain so until this day too.
absolutely, absolutely. That's important. So, of course, you were very active as a kid, but you gravitated to cricket. Why cricket as opposed to football?
Yeah, I was a pretty slight kid, and I always had a temper. So, normally I'd start the fights and probably end up on the bottom of the pack as well. So, I wasn't as naturally gifted as my brother in sports. Don't get me wrong, I could always put my hand to something and be pretty good at it.
Right.
But I wasn't as naturally gifted as Paul. So I needed to push myself and push myself and push myself. And I just I fell to cricket as the sport that I was best at. I was never a world beater of a cricketer. I never played for my state. I never played for my country. I guess I was classed as a decent park cricketer, and I was able to take that into a professional contract in the UK for a year and so forth. So but I fell to that game because I was more naturally gifted at that. And even I'm 48 now. I'm going to start playing again this year, and I
Yeah.
feel like I'm naturally still there again. So
Hmm.
I just fell to that side because that's where I felt more naturally gifted than other
How did
sports.
that? Yeah. How did that contract come about? Was that something you pursued, or just an opportunity opened up?
Yeah, really good question, Deb. So a bit of both. I had a really good. I got to as far as where I could playing grade cricket in Australia, and I got to play against some really good cricketers. I got to play on some really good grounds. I was very fortunate enough to be friends with a lot of good cricketers as well. And my mentor at the time, who was also my club coach, and was also the coach of Victoria at the time, his name was John Scholes. And sadly we lost him a few years ago. But Scholesy always said to me, if you want to do it, go and do it. He said to me, I'll come over and talk to you and sit with you and tell you what I failed to do when I went to England as a coach,
Right.
and hopefully that'll help you out. And this is a guy that was coach of Victoria. He come and sat with me for 5 hours and sat with me and just furnished me with all the good stuff and all the bad stuff. And I said, I really want to do this. I really want to push myself and see if I can make a go of this with no money, no one over in England that I know. I want to really test myself. So I put myself down. I put my name down in an agency. An agency found me. I think it was 4 different clubs that had an interest in me.
Hmm.
One in Scotland, one in Belfast, one in Canterbury in Kent, and one in St Albans in Hertfordshire. And luckily for me, it was luckily for me because I ended up meeting a lot of good friends and obviously my wife. But
Hmm.
I ended up in St Albans in Hertfordshire, and it was the best decision I think I've ever made in my life there.
So you picked up from Australia and went to a place that you didn't know. Did you consider it, or do you consider that a leap of faith? And were there any trepidations, heading out on your own with nothing so far from home?
100%. Trepidation, scared, not knowing where to turn. It's my brother made a speech at my wedding when I got married here when I got married to Alison, and he said, Scott playing cricket if he used to get out, used to walk home because he was upset because he got out. He said it's a bloody long way to go if he gets out in England, wants to go home, that kind of thing. We're talking what, 8,000, 10,000 miles to go home. Massive leap of faith. I had little money. I had no friends to fall back on. It was a calculated risk, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The economy in Australia was a little bit dodgy in '98 with the tiger economy in Asia failing and so forth, and it was a calculated leap of faith. I knew I could make enough money to live. I know I had a house here waiting for me to live in, and I got to play cricket for 6 months, doing the thing that I enjoy the most. And
Right.
so it was a calculated leap of faith. But the one poignant thing for me, Dev, was at the airport in Melbourne and Mum waving to me and crying like mad. And she said, "I know you're going to be successful. I've got every faith in you, but I know I'm not going to see you for 2 years. I bet you go over there and you be successful and you won't come home for 2 years." And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, awesome. So talk to us a little bit. You use the word risk. Talk to us, and what advice would you have for a young person who is presented with an opportunity, and people think that opportunities come wrapped, in dress clothes. You just need to enjoy. But the fact is, it requires work, requires you taking risk. What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, so the first thing I did, Deb, the first thing I really mentally prepared myself for was to be open. It's going to be different. It's going to be England, so it's going to be cold and crappy weather.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be different conditions. So don't expect to be a success overnight. You got to work hard. So I guess having that open mental approach of things are going to be different. It's up to you to adapt, not for them to adapt to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was having that positive mindset going into what I knew was going to be a hard initial contract, because I'd never played in England before. Never played against the Dukes cricket ball before. I've never played in conditions like this before. So therefore, how do I know I'm going to be automatically a success coming off a good season in Australia? So what do I need to do to adapt? And so for me, to any young guy out there, and, I've got a 13, 12-year-old son, that wants to go and play cricket in Australia when he's older. And that is, absolutely do it, but make sure you've got a positive mindset, and make sure you've got an open mindset, because you will need to adapt, not others to adapt to you.
Indeed. Some really good points here, and the fact that you have to adapt, the fact that there's no overnight success. I think too many of us now in today's society expect, because we hear these stories of overnight successes, we think we can become overnight successes as well. And I guess in a way we can, except that, as they say, it takes 7 to 8 years to become an overnight success. So
absolutely. Yeah.
So you played cricket for 6 months, you said? That was the length of your contract?
Yeah, it was. And at the end of that 6 months, so part of that contract was that I was associated and coached at a private school here called St Albans School. And St Albans School is a private school based in Hertfordshire. And at the end of that, I got on the head of sport at that school was a guy by the name of Chris Hudson. And Chris was magnificent. There was various people within the first few months of me arriving in England that were paramount in making me feel welcome into the country. And Chris was one of them. And sadly, I think I saw Chris 3 years ago, and I haven't seen him, before that. It was probably 8 years before that type thing. But Chris, I hope I've said this to him, and if I haven't, next time I see him, I will. But Chris was instrumental in me feeling at home and feeling like I belonged here, for the simple fact that he said, I could see if I can get you a contract here with the school. When he told me how much it was, I thought he was talking part-time, but it was full-time. So obviously had to live and pay for my own house and so forth after that.
Right.
So that was the next step in my career. But, I find, and I'm sure you're the same, Dev, with people you've met and have been instrumental in your career. There's various people in my career, sadly for me, you're one of them. But there's people in various parts of my career that have been instrumental in making me take that next leap. And Chris was one of them. So took the contract, thought, hang on, I can't live on that. I better get off my backside and go and get a real job. Knowing that I'm going to play cricket with old Albanians again. But I better go and do that. So, so I did. I took that next leap of faith, and that was going out, getting a job, getting a house, using the friends that I had to go on, to live with a joint house and so forth, and take that next step in my career. And for me, that was a fun part.
Right. Awesome. So you go from cricket to sales. Why sales?
Yeah, probably, mate, for the simple fact that I can talk. I don't know if you've
Well, we know
noticed.
that, don't we?
Yeah. So, I had an engineering qualification. I didn't really want to go back into engineering, to be fair. I knew I could. I've been in sales a little bit in Australia, selling into Asia, and I knew I had a sales background and methodology I could fall back on.
Hmm.
So I got myself into sales, and with that, part of the success of sales is knowing that you're not the best salesperson out there and latching on to various people who are successful to help you with your career.
Hmm.
And again, I got poached from one job to the next, and because I was successful and I was hitting targets and so forth, which found me then, in 2002, joining a company called Spectralink, which is where I found my next mentor, who you actually met, when you and I met, with the company.
Yeah.
And Gary Mead, to me, to this day, is still a phenomenal mentor to me. He is the reason why I got into this industry, and he's the reason in a lot of ways that I've been successful in my career since meeting him in 2002.
Indeed. We're going to touch on leadership and mentorship in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about being a part of a team. So you just mentioned that one of the reasons why you're able to be successful is the fact that you kind of latched on took your cues from some of the successful people that
Mm-hmm.
you were around. What
Yeah.
would you say, or were there any other nuggets, principles that you apply that allowed you to be successful?
Yeah, very, very much so. One of the biggest things is, this is a phrase that you love. I know you love this phrase, but I love being part of a champion team,
Hmm.
and to be that champion team. A champion team will always beat a team of champions, as you and I know.
Hmm.
And the one thing that I really became good at is identifying the people that wanted to be the champions and making sure that I work with the ones that want to be part of a champion team,
Hmm.
um, and and forming a catalyst of what will be. I'm going to go out there and support you, whether you fail or whether you succeed. If you fail, I'm going to help you get back to where you're going to be, and if you succeed, I'm going to help you, keep a level playing field to ensure that you can be, successful constantly. And I was very lucky that I had a team when I came over in 1998, to start with, that the whole catalyst of having me over as an overseas pro, not once did I have a night where I tried to work out who I was going to catch up with or whatever. They made me feel part of their team, and so much so that first year, our team got promoted into the next level because we became this awesome body of men that would do everything together, from socializing to playing cricket to having a good time. And so for me, it was identifying those team men,
Hmm.
and in business, team people, team men
Right.
and women, that were not only could help me in my overall objective, but who would be interested in being coached or being helped with my opinion and so forth. And for me, those 15 to 20 guys and their partners that I met in
Hmm.
St Albans was really the catalyst of why I've enjoyed and sustained my time in the UK, and why I guess I'm a born Brit now. So those guys are responsible for me
Yeah.
staying here, and that was a big part of it.
So, you mentioned the word team, and a lot of people, when they hear team, they immediately think in terms of sports.
Mm-hmm.
You have used the word team in terms of sports, your cricket team, but you have used it in a broader sense in terms of your life, not outside of cricket, and as it relates to your profession in terms of sales, but also outside of that. Talk to us, Scott, about how important it is to have the right teammates on your team, or the right people on your
Oh,
team.
it's paramount. And you know, even us as leaders at times, and even if I'm just part of a team and not being a leader, we forget that sometimes, but that's okay. You know, we have a saying in our organization called "shit happens." You
Mm-hmm.
know, and you know, you can't be perfect 100% of the time, and you know, it's how we take that feedback and how we change ourselves to be back in that team. For me, team doesn't just include sports; it includes my support team around me. You know, I live the other side of the world to my family, therefore I have a support team around me, which includes
Mm-hmm.
Allison's mum and dad, Allison's family, and my own friends I have here. They're my support team that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully I form part of their support team, of course, as well. But we also have our business team as well, which is comprised of all the elements of our organisation, whether they be business development, whether they be sales, whether they be partner success, whether they be admin. It's making sure that they all feel part of the team, and at times, as I said, we all fall off that perch.
Mm-hmm.
But it's up to that support group to get us back onto that team level, and to make us going in that right direction. So I believe a team in whichever element of your life is very, very important to make me a happy and more progressive individual as well.
Yeah. What would you say then, Scott, are some of the lessons that you have learned about being a good team member?
Oh, I think honesty is a big one.
Mm-hmm.
And honesty can be tough at times, right? And again, honesty is something that maybe I'm too honest at times. It's got me into trouble. It's
Yeah.
also, it's also helped me. So honesty is a good one for me. Trust is also another one. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it's okay to fail at times. It's okay to stuff up at times, but it's also having that trust in others and them having the trust in you that you can work together to reach that end goal. So honesty and trust are two big things for me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So as a leader, I know that you're really big on this idea of leading from the front. What does that
Mhm.
mean, or what does that look like to you, leading from the front?
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean you do it all yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's about showing others how they can progress, I guess. And
Mm-hmm.
there we for me, it's not going in and saying, "Look, I'll do it for you." It's saying, "Hey, these are my observations. This is where I think we could work on and improve, and this is what I think the deliverables are over the next couple of weeks to see how that progression's made." Now, if you
Mm-hmm.
haven't progressed, it's not. I'm not there to beat you with a stick and say you haven't done this. It's
Right.
okay. Why haven't we done that? Is it something that I didn't coach properly, or is it something you didn't understand? Help me understand why we didn't get there, and
Mm-hmm.
let's work to that. So it's for me, it's all about coaching and helping people achieve their goals, as opposed to me coming in and saying, "This is how it's done. This is how I've done it in the past, and this is how I've been successful." It's about making sure that we individually tailor the coaching to ensure that they can be successful on themselves.
How important do you think competence is in helping us to become effective leaders? Competency in terms of our core roles,
Mhm.
and our competency in terms of our ability to positively influence.
I think there's two elements to that. There's core competency, and there's also competency that you can gain and be coached by your leader, in my opinion. So,
Mm-hmm.
You're not in this job by accident. Whichever job you're in, you're not there by
Right.
accident. You've been either hired or you've been put in there for a reason. And you've been put in there for a reason because of your core competency, in my opinion. Um, if there's elements to that competency that need improving, or there's elements there that you need to brush up on, to me, I believe that's the leader's job, and your team around you, to help build on that competency to make you a better person. Whether you're a leader or whether you're an aspiring leader or new to the game, it's your leader's ability to see where those competencies are and also to coach on them to make you a better person or
Yeah.
a better professional.
Yeah, cool. Insightful. What would you say are perhaps your biggest leadership challenge or challenges over the years?
Yeah, for me is generational, to be honest with you. I come from I know I don't look my age, but I come from a generation that was completely different in a management leadership style than what it is now.
Yeah,
I came from a generation that, if you haven't hit your number by this, you will be sacked, and
right,
you're not good enough to do this, and you're not good enough to do that. And when I first started as a leader, and some elements come in every now and again, you fall back on that because that's how you were taught, and
right.
that's wrong. That's wrong.
Mhm.
And I'm the first one to admit when sometimes I become more vocal. That's when I should be stepping back and being more receptive, and being a better coach. So, but I feel that's a positive for me because I can see that, and I can learn from that. For me, it's finding out the generational gaps, being able to communicate effectively with Gen X's, Gen Y's, baby boomers, whatever you and I are, and
Yeah,
making sure that the message is consistent. And that's something that I'm still learning as well as a leader.
yeah. You brought up some really important points there, and certainly the intergenerational, uh, the generational interactions, you know, communicating. Let's talk about that a little bit because when we hear the word communication or communicating, I think some people tend to think it only means, especially as a leader, you talking to your team members and the people in your charge. What is it, in your opinion, Scott, that makes an effective communicator?
Listening. And it's something that I'm working harder on in 2020 that I did in 2019. um, um, I believe in 2020 I'm a better listener, um, and therefore a better leader and a better coach because I'm listening more than I did probably the previous year. And that's
Hmm.
something that I've taken away from some of the leadership sessions I've done. I actually had a leadership coach in Canada that I worked with early last year called Jackie Lauer. And Jackie was phenomenal in allowing me to understand where my skills were and how I can communicate, but also how I can communicate after listening to what the team need.
Hmm.
Um, and Jackie was phenomenal in doing that. And I'm as a sports person, I'm a fan of coaches. Okay, and I know you are, and so forth. And even if you're at the top of the game, if you don't have a coach, I think there's something wrong. A coach is always going to be there to fine tune your game or your development. They're going to be there
Yeah.
to, not necessarily pivot you in a new direction, but maybe put you a couple of degrees north or south or wherever to help to enhance you. And I feel that I felt that Jackie did that to me 12 months ago, and I think I'm reaping the benefits of that now. Again, there are times where you can go off track. It's having the honest communication between those people to assist you and say, but this is what I need. And it's the ability of listening a lot better. And I think I'm better at that now than I've ever been, to be honest. And not only that, Dev, it's helped me at home with the kids.
Hmm. Nice. Because guess what? Even at home, you're still playing a leadership role. It may be
Oh,
not
100%.
not GM, but it's dad, and it's still an important leadership role in our lives. I think a lot of people forget that.
Yeah, and I had, Dev. I really had. I took on this role, and I started. I knew that I had to build the company up, and I really had, taken a step back of that role. And Alison took over the CEO role here at home, and to be honest with you, does a far better job than I do. But it was my ability of being able to say, no, I'm not coming out the back and playing cricket. I need to sit down. I need to rest and so forth. Saying, you know what? No, they need me as much as my team do at work. So therefore, let's go. So,
Yeah, indeed.
and that's where I feel I'm better today than I was, 12, 18, 24 months ago.
Gotcha. So therefore, certainly, being able to communicate better, being able to listen better,
Mhm.
um, allows you to be a better mentor, a better leader, both at home and abroad, as it were.
Yeah, and that's from the top down and the bottom up as well, Dev.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more, I don't know everything. It's as simple as
Shocker.
that. Yeah, I know. At home I do, by the way, but so it's being able to listen to, my CEO Mark or my boss Rob or whatever, and being able to identify what they're trying to achieve through me into the team here, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be better at that as well, and hopefully that's progressing.
Indeed. So talk to us a little bit as we wind down, Scott, about how you motivate and kind of draw the potential of the people on your team.
Yeah, look, that's in some cases, if you've got a really motivated individual, it's a lot easier than with others.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a generational thing where I'm starting to understand how, because in some ways, Dev, now, when I was a young sales guy coming through, it was all about the cash. Simple as
Mm-hmm.
that. He wanted the best BMW, this guy wanted a Porsche, this guy wanted to go to Paris every weekend for holidays, all those kind of things. But it's not always about the cash anymore. It's about, the life's, can I come in at 10 and work till 6,
Mm-hmm.
can I sit on in a beanbag and do my work on a laptop? Can I work from home every few days? So what are those what are those motivational factors? And there's no one size fits all anymore. So
Mm-hmm.
for me as a leader, it's now trying to ascertain what motivates the individuals as opposed to what motivates the group. And it's having that understanding that individuals are individuals, and that just doesn't mean from a coaching perspective, it also means from a motivational perspective as well.
Indeed. So you're saying there no cookie cutter solution to bringing out the best in people. It's really understanding what motivates each of them, and then I guess their hot buttons and
Yep.
pressing that to get the most out of them.
Yeah, I think so. And and again, that's my experience, and that's the way I've found it moving in that direction. Certainly in our industry, but it's the same. Again, it's the same with the kids. It's the same with various people that I know. My circle of friends that I have that are in various industries. One runs a bank, one runs a facilities management company. And the motivational factors for those guys are completely different to me, for instance. So I guess it's using the outside experiences of your inner circle, if you will, and then taking that into business, and hopefully they marry up, and you can motivate effectively.
Which really leads to the whole business of using all the opportunities you have to learn and to be always learning, so you can take those nuggets from these different experiences and apply them to your life to become better, right?
Oh, 100%, 100%. And, one of the things that I've never been good at is to sit down with a motivational book or anything like that. But it's amazing over the past 12 months how many books have been thrown my way, or titles have been thrown my way. And, you jump on Amazon, you buy it, and they start to pile up. And it's amazing. For me, it's the nuggets that you get out of each book. It's not necessarily the entire contents of that book.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the nuggets you get out of those books, and how I can bring them into my everyday life. So yeah, and also the people I communicate with, and people like yourself and Gary, and people don't even know some of the people that motivate me, but they're people that are going through serious health conditions, and or have adversity in their lives and so forth, that it's not about business success. It's how these guys overcome their illnesses or whatever to actually lead normal lives is as motivating to me as someone that's earned $1 trillion and built up 6 companies from scratch.
You know what? A really good point on which to end, my friend. You talk about the nuggets that they have gleaned from these books, and we have gleaned some really valuable nuggets from you as well. I really love, what you just said, because I'm very much that way as well. That you don't just learn or become inspired by the famous people, so to speak. It's very average and ordinary persons, people who have found the strength to dig deep and find the strength to overcome crisis in their lives, whether it's an illness or something.
Absolutely.
You can learn as much from them as you can from the guy who builds up 6 companies from scratch, right?
Absolutely. I live it every day with Alison and so forth. But the people that you come in contact with and they're just inspirational. So and you think you've got issues and so forth. These people wake up every day and inspire not only just their families, but I'm sure a whole generation, and that's something to behold for sure.
Indeed. And you, my friend, have been inspirational. A kid running around in Melbourne, Australia, with no talent,
I'm not even commenting on that one, mate. And look,
but that's what makes it so inspiring, man. You had nothing to work with, and you created something out of it, and now look at you now.
Look, it's all about you and I met at a bar after a motivational.
Don't tell the world that.
Sorry, you and I met at a conference.
I think actually we did meet at a conference.
It was at a conference, but it's amazing how two.
And I think the bar you're referring to was a weight bar in the gym, right?
That's exactly where it was. You were getting the 10-pounders, I was getting the 15s or whatever. But we met each other. We were the only ones without the American accents, right? And and we started talking together, and we actually spent a couple of hours chatting and exchanged numbers, and that was 18 years ago, and it's inspiring for me that a guy that's been an Olympian and has done all he's done, starting foundations and so forth, wants to talk to a little bloke from Melbourne with no skills or success. So you're one of those people that's been inspirational for me and remains so. You're a good friend of my family, and keep doing what you're doing, because it truly inspires a generation, mate.
Well, thank you, bro. I'm much appreciated. You have inspired us as well. So thank you so much again for tuning in to Keep On Pushing, sharing your nuggets, your pearls of wisdom with us. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thanks, Dev. Thanks for the invite. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you click on that subscribe button and hit that bell. You'll get a notification every time we post a new video. And don't forget, share it with your friends, man. They want to be inspired as well, right? So share it. Don't keep it. And before you go on to the next video, visit my website, www.devonharris.com. Keep on pushing.